Well, good morning. How's everybody in the world today? In Florida here, it's the coldest day in a long, long time. It's 40 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit for the people in the rest of the world other than the United States. It's probably 4 or 5 degrees. I don't know. I didn't do the calculations, but I think it's somewhere around 4 or 5 degrees centigrade, or what's the other word? It starts with a K. Anyway, that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Today is going to be, the title is Taboo Subjects, Religion and Politics. And I may have used that title before, I don't know, because here's my blurb. My two favorite subjects have long been ones that get me in trouble. The powers that have been very successful in keeping the general population from actually thinking. Humanity has been mostly content to stay in nice, conforming boxes that define and restrict freedom. Most have no concept that freedom begins by actually thinking outside the box and by examining our ideologies with the wisdom of our own hearts. Separation of church and state is a good thing. Separation of spirituality from rationalism is disastrous. This is all changing in the awakening. Oh, yes. The powers that have been, and I don't care whether you're talking the secular powers of the world, quote, the politics, or the religious leaders in the churches and the synagogues and the mosques and the temples, have long tried to protect their little domain by keeping people's thought patterns in a nice little defined area, and don't venture too far outside because there's a taboo there. You're probably going to go to hell if it's religion, or you're going to end up with something that you don't like if it's politics. If it's politics, doesn't matter which way you go, you're going to end up with something you don't like, because all they've ever given us to choose from is the lesser of two evils. And even when they have somebody that's decent like Ron Paul, that's at least a man of integrity, I don't say I agree with him on every point, but it doesn't matter, does it? As long as the person is in integrity and is protecting everyone's freedom. And the truth of the matter is, Ron Paul is a libertarian. Libertarians are both conservative and liberal at the same time. There is no greater protection of social freedoms than to have a libertarian in control or in charge. That's just the way it is. And there's no greater protection of our rights, which is conservative, the Constitution, than to have a libertarian in there. They protect our rights while they protect our rights. The conservative part and the liberal part are both protected. Most people don't get that. I don't know how Iowa fixed it, but they fixed it again and let two people come out ahead of Ron Paul. And in these days in the United States, in elections, I just don't buy anything they tell us, because I watched the 2008 elections when the actual results of Ron Paul winning in New Hampshire came out on the Boston Globe news site, and then within minutes it was changed and reversed, and Ron Paul they reversed numbers. And I actually had the screenshots of it going up with the real numbers of Ron Paul winning. Now, I'd be just as excited if Dennis Kucinich was winning, because I like him too, and he's a liberal. You see, politics, to me, has to do with integrity. It doesn't have to do with ideology. And that's where we've screwed up, and where we've had our minds messed up in regard to politics. We get this brainwashing that says, well, you've got to have a liberal, or you've got to have a Democrat, or you've got to have a Republican, or you've got to have a conservative. Now, I know I put them together there, and I realize that. But they think that they give you two choices. Why don't they give you whatever choices you need? Why can't you choose none of the above of the ones the establishment gives you, and make them run elections until they give you someone that's worth voting for? Why do we have to vote for the lesser of two evils? Well, I did that most of my life, and I vowed in the last election that I wouldn't do that anymore, so I voted for a black woman for president. She was the only one on the ballot in Florida that had integrity from my point of view, Cynthia McKinney, a black congresswoman from Georgia. She had balls. I don't care if you say, well, she's a woman. How could she have balls? Well, she had guts then, okay, to stand up to the establishment and tell the truth. And I like that about in people. And I don't care what their political ideology is, because it doesn't matter. What matters is, are they people of the heart? Are they people that are going to tell you the truth? Or are they just going to lie and give you whatever they think the right thing to say is in this moment with this audience? That's why Mitt Romney, who supposedly is the winner, I mean, he's known as Mr. Flip-Flop. He caters his message not based on integrity, but to the audience that he's speaking to. He tells people what they want to hear. Now, is that the kind of politician we want? That's the kind of politician we've always gotten. Why? Because the banks own the politics. The money people, the corporations, they are the ones that run the show. People are waking up, starting to think outside the box, starting to realize that it doesn't matter which party you vote for. You still get the same BS in office, the same kind of lack of integrity in office. That's why I support people like Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, Cynthia McKinney, and others that actually have integrity, that actually have the same story continuously. They don't change their story on a whim, on the winds of change. They allow themselves to be steadfast in their message. And their message is one of freedom. Their message is one of truth. That's the kind of people that I would want. As long as we have to have politics, that's the kind of politician that I would like. But it's a oxymoron. An honest politician? Give me a break. They don't go together, do they? Honesty and politician. Just like honesty and judges. There are some honest judges. There are a few honest politicians. But the general rule of thumb is, all over the world, it doesn't matter where you go, politics is filled with lie and deception. And it's the same thing with religion. Religious teachers always try to keep you inside the box. You're going to go to hell if you don't believe exactly this truth. These are the doctrines and dogmas that will save your soul. And if you don't believe these, you're going to hell, friend. You're not going to be acceptable. Not by God, not by us. Because we'll love you only if you agree with us. And that's the foundation of our religion. Same BS as in the politics. It's control. It's control. I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you from my heart, that if we're going to create the world we want in 2012, and I believe we will, I believe the energies are lined up, the planets are lined up, a whole bunch of things are coming into alignment to help us do exactly that, to create the world that we want to see from the deepest part of our heart. But to create that world, we have to be willing to take the biggest step of all. We have to jump out of our mind and into our heart and stop letting the mind and the thought processes that we've been brainwashed with. Don't believe for a second that you've never been a victim of mind control. We all have. We all have. It's been horrible, absolutely horrible, how we've been pushed into this box of conformity. And I'm telling you, non-conformity is going to be the answer here. Getting outside the box is going to be where our answers are going to come from. We're not going to be able to create the world we want by thinking in the same way of thinking that we've always been. Isn't that what Einstein said? You can't solve a problem by using the same thinking that created the problem in the first place. It's not either or. It's both and, folks. We need to allow the differences to come together and to realize the common ground between what seem like different factions. And that's true in politics. It's true in religion. It's true in every area of our lives. We develop the wisdom of the heart by inclusion, by including other ideas and letting other ideas come in so that we can rationally with our hearts, aha, make a decision that allows the wisdom of diversity to come forth in us and to manifest through us in our lives. This is what we need. This is the kind of people that are going to create the new Renaissance. And we're going to have a new Renaissance. We're going to have a new world order that has nothing to do with what the old world order has had to do. The old world order keeps talking about they want a new world order. And what they mean is where everybody kowtows to their taboos. Everybody marches to the beat of their drummer. Everybody conforms to their image of an ideal citizen of the world. Well, I want to tell you, the ideal citizen of the world is one that loves, is one that shows compassion, is one that allows and listens to other points of view, one that doesn't make up their mind, his or her mind, quickly, but examines the options, examines what people are saying. Too many times, these powers that have been still try to peg us, and maybe we're square and they're trying to force us into a round hole, but we don't fit in the round hole. Or maybe we're star-shaped and they're trying to fit us into a triangle, and we don't fit. Because each of us has our own peculiarity, our own individuality. Now, that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's a wonderful thing, because we each have different roles and different parts to play in this drama called human life. And it is a drama. It is a play. It is an act, if you will. But it's an act with meaning. It's a drama that has purpose. And the purpose is that we expand and become the best we can be in every lifetime that we live. In every set of circumstances, that we learn to take and draw from everything and everyone around us. And we allow our circumstances and our friends and our acquaintances and our family to shape us, but shape us in such a way that we create peace, that we create a just society, that we create compassionate living and compassionate communicating with each other. We allow this to happen, and we evolve into it. And everything is important. We don't reject things because they don't fit in the box we've been given. In fact, if you're still trying to make everything fit into the box you've been given, I'm telling you, you're going to be really disappointed, because you're going to find that life doesn't fit in nice little boxes. Life comes in enigmas and paradoxes and conundrums. Life comes full of exceptions to every rule. And if you're trying to make something fit into every rule, into some rule book, whether you call it the Bible or whether you call it the Quran or whether you call it the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you want to call your holy book, or whatever you want to call the book of rules of your political party, you're limiting yourself. You're not being the best you can be. You're thinking in a little puny little ego mind that thinks I'm right and everybody else that doesn't agree with me is wrong. So you shrink your world because you eliminated almost everybody, because nobody, hardly, except a very few people, think like you think. And you're going to find that even the people that you think like you think don't, because that's the reality, because we're all different. Do you get it? We're all different. And that's the way it's been made. That's the wisdom of creation. We're all different, and we all have a right to our differences, to our own perspectives, to our own lifestyles, to our own choices. As long as they don't hurt anybody else, we have that right. As long as they don't hurt anybody else. Do no harm. Let's be pagans. Let's be pagans. Because the golden rule there is, do what you want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. Now, I paraphrase it, of course, and it doesn't really matter, does it? The idea is there. We are free. We are free to be our unique individual selves, as long as we don't try to make someone else be like us. I'll close with this little story I just watched. Just within 10 minutes of starting this video, I watched a young man propose to his date, a young lady, at a UCLA basketball game, and he had cameras there, and he had actually an announcer there, and he said, will you marry me? And she looked down, looked around, and then finally got up and turned and walked out. How embarrassing. Obviously, he had no idea where she was. They probably didn't communicate very well. And that's what needs to change, folks. We need to start communicating with each other. We need to start listening, sharing our point of view, sharing especially our feelings, and listening and observing with a compassionate heart. We can't force anybody to do what we'd like them to do. And nobody is going to handle that very well, or few people will handle that very well. As we wake up, this is the time that individuals get to go through the individuation process and become fully ourselves. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world. Because when you're fully yourself and you're living in integrity, you're not going to allow any powers that be, whether religious or political, to push you into some box and make you believe something that's absolute insanity. I leave you with these thoughts. I hope you have a beautiful day. I expect to. Namaste.